Father God, we just come to you now and we just thank you and praise you for all the great works that you do. And Lord, we just come and we put our faith in you, Lord, for you to just heal our lands, Lord, and just heal our nation. There's just so much at work here, Lord, that we're just choosing to trust you above it all. We just thank you for these commissioners. We ask that you bless them and that you lead them, guide them, and direct them in decisions that'll reflect you for this county. We ask a special blessing on all of our employees and their staff, Lord. And we ask that you protect each one of their families and just keep everyone safe and healthy. Lord, we thank you for all that you do. We thank you for your son that died on the cross for our sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
In New Mexico, Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Good morning, everybody. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
So moving second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of September the seventh, regular meeting and special meeting.
So move. Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to accounts payable and payroll. The first, 30th, payroll and accounts.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor of line item 3 of payable and payroll?
Well, see, it's been a while. I'm pretty loud. Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve payroll and accounts payable. All those in favor say aye.
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 Moving on to item 4, public request. Does anyone here like to stand up and speak on something? Miss Reed. If you, I think maybe you know why you're here, right? If you'll turn on your mic.
Is it on?
Yes.
The green light's on. Okay. No, I'm here for a personal matter. I don't know that
Okay.
it's not anything county. As many of you know, and I know some of you attended the Roosevelt County, county by county proclamation dedication that we had here 3 weeks ago. What we have come up with an idea, and I want to bring it before commissioners and county staff to consider this. We want to, in some way, and not in a ritualistic way, but bury that proclamation somewhere significantly here in the county. And we're probably going to do it more than one place, but one place we would like to have you consider is letting us use about 2 foot by 1 foot piece of dirt out in the yard somewhere around the courthouse for us to bury that proclamation. And we're going to get like a little stone head, I don't want to call it like a headstone, but that's what it is, marker to put on top to mark it. And I know I'm kind of throwing something completely out of the blue to you. I know it's not something you may want to make a decision on today. And if there's rules and regulations where it can't be done, that kind of thing. But we would like to, since we're proclaiming this county for the glory of God, we'd like to bury the proclamation somewhere here on county courthouse grounds. We're going to also do it at maybe a couple, 3 churches in like Elida, Dora, Floyd, so we're hitting the whole county. So anyway, like I said, this is just something I wanted to offer, let you consider. And at some point in time later in a month, could I come back and see what your consideration is?
Is that something we need to be put on an agenda? Be in front of the public? Feel that to be put on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Would that it be appropriate in December or January? Somewhere like that?
Whenever
Okay.
you'd like.
Okay. Okay.
Really have yours when I'm gone.
We're not asking for a whole lot, just a little bit of dirt to, we're gonna bury it in like a 14 by 2-inch piece of PVC pipe. That's what we're gonna put in the ground with the proclamations and the signatures. It's not a big anything. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your consideration.
Well, is there any other public request? Seeing none, we're gonna move on to line 5, electing officials and department heads. I guess Ms. Sanchez.
Happen to know that my balances did not get into the the report, so I'm going to hand those to you now.
One each, right? Or
Yes, one packet. Sorry, it's like there's 4 pages to it all. 5. Okay, maybe for Mandy. Whoever. Oh, Tina, yeah. So unfortunately, I noticed the media is not here, but I'm gonna announce and let you all. They're watch. Okay, perfect. I need to stress that this year for your property taxes, there is a delay because the ballot question for one of the schools, we will not know how that affects the tax rates until November 2nd. So normally you would have already gotten your tax bills around this time of year. You're going to most likely see the tax bill come out the week of Thanksgiving, is what we're thinking. And then the due date is going to be, for the first half, is December 10th, and you'll have till January 10th to pay that without any penalty. However, if you're doing it for tax purposes, you want to get it paid before December 30th. And then the second half is on regular schedule, like it always has been, due April 10, and you have till May 10 to pay without any penalty. So that is one of the major things that I want to try to get out. There's going to be an ad in the paper. I did put something on Facebook, but anybody just please share the word. That is the best way, word of mouth, to get it out to everyone. Second, I wanted to correct an amount on the investments in the reserve accounts for June. I think that, so you're on, be the second page middle where there's handwriting where it says June reported error. Do you see that? Okay. So unfortunately, I think my old eyes on the June report, I had put for the Morton Capital investment, it actually had the amount of the Western Bank CD, so it was only showing 250,000. The balance should have been 4,593,033. So I wanted y'all to note that I did find that and wanted to correct it. Now for July, end of July, your cash balances in your general fund were $3,951,306.86. You had debits of $306,667.70, and you had credits of $779,584.68, leaving your ending cash for July $3,478,389.88. Does anyone have any questions for me as far as cash balances, Any office information? Okay, very well. Thank you.
Are you gonna handle Justin?
Yes, yes. Good morning, commissioners. So the only thing that I am going to report is on the quarterly restricted housing, and submit that. There were 0 detainees placed in restricted housing for the first quarter of fiscal year 22. So these are the quarterly reports that we're required to bring y'all. Then we have to submit to the state. Mr. Porter will be back. He is actually at a detention meeting this week, and so he will be back and report to the commission for both September and October's numbers at the November meeting. But all we needed to do today was just present that we've had 0 in restricted housing. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to floodplain. Mr. Montiel with,
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So in the PMR, which is the physical map revision, the next process was the 90-day appeal and comment period. As of 9/22 of 21, it started. And so what they did was they sent out a legal notice to the Federal Registry and had it documented. And then they published 2 notices in our newspaper, which started, the second one started the 90-day period. Now, what that means is that the community officials and community has 90 days to review and look at the floodplain. And if you have an appeal, which an appeal is defined as a written objection or addition or modification to a base flood elevation or a flood depth. So if you have an objection to whatever's on the map, but it has to be data driven, scientifically driven through hydrology or hydraulics data. So if we have an appeal, then we're probably going to have to get a study done on that appeal to submit to FEMA. Now, a comment is just something that's a mistake on a map. Like as I'm reviewing them, there's a lot of errors on roads, typos, boundaries, village limits. And so as I'm going through them, I'm marking them and putting them in a folder to get ready to submit for a comment to FEMA to have them corrected. So as we go through the 90-day period, if there's no appeals or nothing, then they'll move to the 60-day period, which that gives the community 60 days to come up with the ordinance. I have the sample ordinances as models, so I can present them to Floyd and Lida and have them make modifications to them as they see fit for their community, and then we'll adopt them, or they'll adopt them. We'll make modifications to ours, and if we need to improve it, or right now we're sitting at the minimum standards. There's a couple of things I would like to visit with you guys about as just going a little bit higher as far as the 1 foot above the highest adjacent grade, just to make sure that we're building up a little bit higher. Right now we're at or above, so that means if the concrete was to settle any and puts us below it, then they'll be in violation. So a little bit. No, our floodplain ordinance. Well, if a company's developing some property and they're in the flood zone and their concrete above the finished floor is below the base level engineering, I mean the base flood, then they're going to be not in compliance with the floodplain. But just to make simple modifications to our ordinance if possible. But anyway, going back to the 90 days. So once that's done, we'll go through the 60-day period, and then FEMA will review and correct everything that needs to be corrected, and then they'll send out the letter of final determination. And then they'll start working on the digital firms, and then we'll receive them, and then they'll become our maps. So I stand for any questions.
I have a question.
Mhm.
If somebody in the public wants to come see these. If somebody in the public wants to come see the map to see if they're in the floodplain or out, you have them
Yes, sir.
available in your office, right?
I do. Our my office or the office downstairs is the repository for the floodplain maps, and we also have them on our website, a link where they can go see them for themselves. But if they have questions, or if they want to just come and see, yeah, they're more than welcome to come by, and I can show them where it's at.
Is there any way for a person to know they were not in the floodplain and now if we change it and they become into it, I mean, it's going to cause a lot of mortgage issues and stuff. That's now when they need to argue about.
No, that's going to be between, if they want to argue or appeal that FEMA put them in the floodplain, then they're going to have to do a study to show that their data is incorrect, which is going to require a hydrology or hydraulic study.
Mr. Chairman, real quick. So what you're saying is that you're going to put the burden on our citizens if
If they
traditionally
want to,
they've been in, the floodplain has been in existence for how many years now? Y'all do it every 10
for us, it
years?
was in October of 11th of 2011. That's
Every
when
10
we
years. So I don't agree with that. To prove you're putting the burden on our citizens on something that if they have an argument against it, why should they have to pay for
Well,
hydraulic?
the data that is driven is based on the data that they use through the LiDAR information that they got, and then they configured it, and then they showed that this is how the floodplain is. This is the model that they use. So the data in their eyes is correct. So if I wanted to argue that my property is in a flood zone X shaded, which normally it was in a zone D, and if I don't want to have that designation of X shaded, which still means that I'm outside the special flood hazard, but I still have a studied zone X, that I'm going to have to get a study done on my property to take me out of that.
Mr. Montiel, if it's changing anybody's floodplain, will they be notified by a letter or certified letter that there's possibilities of them being in a higher floodplain than they was listed before?
That's going to be done. To answer your question, no, but it's going to be done through our outreach, letting our community know or residents know that the floodplain maps are changing. And so they're more than welcome to look at them and review them and see what that's going to do to their property. Now, again, it's only going to affect them if they have a mortgage through a federal loan institution, or their mortgage company requires them to get flood insurance. Okay.
Well, that's the problem I have. If you already had a mortgage set up and your insurance set up, and now then you've changed it into a flood zone or a higher rated flood zone, it's going to move up all of their escrow accounts and everything they have to pay to get a
Now,
flood insurance.
as far as that, I cannot speak on that, but to answer your question, more than likely it will, because if their mortgage company is requiring them to get a flood insurance, because now they're going to be in a flood zone A, let's just say, then it's going to be up to their loaning institution to say, hey, now it's required that you're going to have to get flood insurance.
I kind of think there ought to be a way to contact the public if you're in a changing zone that you raised, so they have time to argue
Now,
the situation before.
Now, we don't set the prices on the insurance or
I know,
anything like
but
that.
I
So
mean,
what we're going to do
I'm
is
just saying if you move, if the floodplain changes in your area, I think there should be some kind of letter or something to the public, to the individual who's it's changing in, so they have time in the slotted area to make an appeal.
that's just it. I have to start doing outreach and get it out there. It was announced on the radio a few times. Right now, our first step is to get with all the mortgage companies, insurance companies, real estate brokers, and have a meeting with them and discuss the floodplain, the flood maps, and then we'll still start doing town meetings and just get the information.
Commissioner, if I can. So here's the other problem with this is it's the federal government. So in their eyes, they're never wrong. So I can tell you from the difference in the map, everyone in Roosevelt County should just assume that their floodplain is fixing to change, because there are substantial changes to the majority of the county. It is something that is going to be, the past city manager expressed how it would help specifically the residents in town and everything. I think it's going to be more of the residents in the unincorporated area that are going to be caught more off guard.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is all a burden that rests on the federal government. This isn't something that the county went out and did. We don't make these maps. We didn't change them. It is certainly not anything I wanted to see. So this is something that we are being forced upon by the federal government. They are never wrong, as we all know. Sorry, I shouldn't be so sarcastic. It's just very frustrating because, like you shared, the appeal process is beyond cumbersome and nobody's going to win the appeal. I mean, basically, they need to all assume that something's fixing to change in their floodplain level and they need to be looking at maps. Johnny's working on getting links, but there's like over 1,300.
There's 1,375 maps. That's why I
So-
couldn't bring them all.
Yeah, you can't bring all of those out. So we're working on getting some links up so that they can go in there and do it. But again, the burden should be on the federal government to raise awareness of what they're doing. Johnny's just going above and beyond. We've talked about this at several commission meetings, as I'm sure y'all all recall, just trying to bring awareness because we do want the public to know what's going on. And they're going to have to pay attention to this because, again, this is something that the federal government is triggering. And this is something that they came out and did studies on. The county doesn't have any role other than bringing awareness, and then we have to adopt and enforce whatever we're told as well.
Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Vice Chair, real quick. So what has changed in 20 years? Because 20 years ago, when I was first commissioner, pre-Oakwood Manor, they lifted that as a flood zone and put North Portales into a flood zone right before that Oakwood. And I'm not going to mention any names, but what's changed since then? Because there was a local FEMA representative that was from Portales that made all of the recommendations. Is it not like that anymore?
What was done was there was the maps were created through a study back then. And so they did in 2011, the city of Portales did what is called a LOMAR, letter of map revision. And so they were able to adjust some of the flood zones that were incorrect. Okay. And so that's how we have the revisions inside the city. With the new studies in the city of Portales, it's going to help them. Now in the county, there was a bunch of zone Ds, which means undetermined. So a lot of people that were wanting to build or do some type of development out there, if the developing company said that our policy does not allow any type of development, then because you're in a zone D, then they couldn't develop.
Well, residents weren't informed back then. I owned property in North Portales, and I remember receiving a letter that I was required to get flood zone insurance on my mortgages or properties that I had back then. And then no one was ever informed of it. It was just, we were blindsided. And then we find out that where it does flood on 18th and Globe,
Mhm.
that was lifted from the flood zone. And of course, we saw what transpired just a year after
Right.
that.
And then we have.
That's when they did the huge subdivision and everything else there.
And so we're like, again, we're trying to get the word out, do the outreach and let everybody know that what's coming on. That way nobody gets blindsided as you referenced. So.
I'm like Mr. Lopez. I have the same problem. I live south of town on top of a hill, probably 60 feet above the whole town.
Mhm.
And when I had my mortgage, they wanted me to get floodplain because the whole county was listed as a floodplain. And I told them, I don't think so.
Well,
And
here's
that's what
the-
I'm worried about. I'm worried about some of these people that are on fixed incomes. And now that we change it and all of a sudden they have, is there not a way as the county that we can address this with FEMA, ask them to come in and say, we'd
No.
like to have a more hands-on study than just you looking at a map?
No.
You can try, but it's going to be like jousting at a windmill because it's, we're not,
It's not a local decision.
no, it's not, yeah.
And another thing to address is there's been a significant change in the technological abilities of them to map. So just to expand on what Mr. Montiel was trying to explain, they used a very high definition radar, LiDAR type survey to create all of this so that it does measure all of the depths. It's not to say that the maps are inaccurate. It's just that it's going to have a very broad impact on all of, for the majority, I shouldn't say all, for a majority of potentially county residents that either own land, that are in a floodplain, that are going to be impacted because they have picked up every single little draw and have prepared for basically the 100-year storm
100-year flood.
that we always hear about. It is everywhere. And so those are the concerns. Bless you. And again, this is something
bless you
coming
if you do it
from the
again.
federal level. Very, like, there's really local involvement is it. There's no local say. There's no local anything. Once they're in, they come in and they put down what is going to happen.
Well, I just think voters ought to have the right to know if they've been changed. That way they can call their state representative that is the federal government and where he can go up there and speak on behalf of this. I think if there's any changes to somebody's property like this, they ought to be contacted via letter or something, because we don't have newspaper no more. Not everybody listens to the same radio stations. Not everybody has Facebook. I mean, oh no.
Again,
Yeah.
I understand the frustration, but that's on the
Mm.
federal government, and there's no way for us to know every person
Well,
that's going to be impacted. So,
We just
If
need to know the
ultimately it might be
zones.
on
We just
them.
need the zones that changed.
and those are on the map.
Yes, they're
So
they're
they
on the
can
maps.
do those on the map.
Anybody's more than welcome. Again, that's why we're doing the outreach. That's why
Well,
we're
how hard is it to find out how many zones changed to a higher flood zone than?
well.
Right.
Most of Roosevelt County was in the flood zone D. So
Okay.
now most of Roosevelt County is changed to a flood.
Well, that's what I'm
Basically,
asking you.
Everybody is in the flood
I know
zone
most,
X.
but which ones have increased or in a flood zone that have become flood zones?
There's an area just northwest of town in that subdivision. At one point wasn't in one, and one point now they're in one.
That's the residents I think maybe we ought to contact somehow.
Here's the other thing. The county can't accept that burden, because what's going to happen is we're going to miss one, and then we're going to be potentially held liable for that. Because again, this isn't the county's burden. All we're here to do is ensure that we try to get the word out as best we can. We've tried a variety of different reasons or venues, and we'll continue to do it. But I don't
Well-
feel that the county can accept that liability from the federal government, because we are not the ones being required to notify. We're only trying to help raise awareness because of our concerns.
Any more questions? Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Well, we butchered you like we do Ricky some days, didn't we?
Thank you. Who's next?
Up next, road, Mr. Lovato.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'm gonna take these off so I can see my handwriting. We've been blading, a lot of blading, cleaning cattle guards. We've did some tree trimming, a lot of patching, and continue to patch. As you know, we've had an abundance of rain. We've been blessed, and that everybody's been blessed. Crops are great, so that means tumbleweeds are going to be really, really good this year.
I think you already had a little of that already. haven't
Yes, we
So-
have. So
Say
on
that.
that note, y'all just call, let us know, get with Amber, and leave a message, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. So we got Desert West. One of our vendors are in town. They're microsealing P today between 4 and 6. Hopefully they'll jump across and do Road 8 between 206 and S. And then we'll do Y between 236 and 267. They'll get all that done this week and move out to Sundale and do Sundale Valley on Monday and Tuesday. And on Sundale, all dirt work will be done today. We'll be chip sealing tomorrow. And then there'll be micro sealing at Sundale on Monday and Tuesday. Let's see here. The building. Have y'all seen the building? Isn't it beautiful? So the building's up. Concrete is all done this morning. They poured the last part of the concrete. They've started foaming. They'll start
I
Those-
just drove by.
They'll start on, hopefully the framing work on the offices the end of the week. The fence company come out, and put the fence up. They did that in like 2.5 days. I was totally amazed how well they did that. That's all I got for today. If y'all have any questions. You got it all on you, huh, Johnny?
So Commissioner Dixon had a conflict with a funeral and she wasn't able to be here, but she did report that S&A and 7, they were getting some calls on potholes that need to be patched in that area.
Got it?
And then South Roosevelt Road, is it 19 after the curve that goes out to, okay, that one needs to be patched as well. And the hope is if we can get there before the snow and everything else, maybe we can make it through the weather. Is it 19 or 21?
It is 19. And we
Just the
talked
first
about,
little bit.
we talked about this, and now we got everybody here but Miss Dixon. I would like to rip that thing up for over 5 miles.
But that's not what we get to talk about right now. It just needs to be patched. So there's some
So
bad
spend
holes. We'll take care of that at the road.
Okay.
Workshop.
workshop. We'll do that. The patching we'll get there hopefully next week.
It's been brought up. I know it's in, I don't know, Paul's or Rod's district, but I don't think the road belongs to us from the DFA plant south to, what's that road? Not W, is it?
Industrial? Oh, to you.
To you,
West.
west.
So it's
6 West. Yeah, it's not ours. Nope, it belongs to the city from industrial all the way to you. To you is belongs to the city. And then also you from 6 all the way to 7.
Real quick in reference to that road, because they've also mentioned it to me as well. It's horrible. That would be an ideal one where we could do what we used to do back in the day, the JPA with city county, just to establish that rapport and maybe help them out. And because it does border the county. And I know that in the past, we've done a few projects like that. And I think that would just be nothing but a positive with county residents, city government and county. So we might want to keep that in mind.
I have a quick question on that too. Are the residents that live off the road, are they county residents or are they city residents?
They're county.
And
'Cause the-
the way it's annexed in, because they annexed that road in to get to the airport. So it just depends on what resident you're talking about and where they fall in the boundary line. There's no easy answer there.
Did the city just go the 60 foot? The road is
There's a
60
few
foot.
that they pull in and then there's some that they don't. There's sometimes they have a front door in.
All right.
That's what they did on Bow, the city, and that's what they did on Boston, right?
They had to get to the, so like 6 to you and then what's that road?
7 to you and a half.
And
Then they
another
engulf the
different name,
airport.
And then the airport. So, and the rule is when they go to annex in, they have to take the road that is within the annex with them. So you see that with a lot of the subdivisions as well.
It just seems hard for me to deal with the county residents pay county taxes, but we can't do nothing for their road to get to their home. I mean, what pull do they have in the city when they don't get to vote for the city council any to try to get their roads fixed? So they go to the city council. They have no way to say, well, who do we vote for to help our area?
Very good
I want to
question.
echo exactly what Commissioner Lee said, because that road is a prime example with the city. Dad and I just drove around the city before this meeting, and it's unbelievable. They have their hands full with the potholes within the city jurisdiction. This is a prime example of county residents having a horrible road, dangerous, especially at night, and people who it's unfamiliar to. I drove it several times last week, and I just think that we need to collaborate with them one way or the other to address this issue, either on the annexation issue, or once again, I'm going to mention to do some type of JPA with them.
It would be a-
Collaborate.
Yeah, we could do it's actually an intergovernmental agreement, much like what we tried to do off of Boston. So I have a note to discuss with Sarah. I know the city's aware of it and they're working on things. I just don't know if they have the funding for it. They may have already procured that. So it's just a discussion that we'll have to have.
We had to jab you a little too, Ricky.
That's fine.
Thank you. Is there any more questions for Mr. Lovato? Rod, are you good?
Thank you.
Moving on to County Manager, Ms. Hamilton.
Yes. Good morning again. So just a quick update. We are down to the very final repair parts. The vendors have finished the roof repairs out at the fairgrounds. This is from the 2020 hailstorm. The only thing that we like is window replacement in the youth building, and Mr. Spinks is working on getting quotes for that. And then hopefully we'll be able to close out that entire project and be done with it. So very excited about that one. We did a walkthrough about 3 weeks ago now on the fairgrounds drainage project, and we noted several items on a punch list that the vendor was needing to come back and resolve. They're continuing to work on that. I know Friday they seeded the ponds. They've made repairs to some of the concrete area. They had to fix and adjust some grading and everything in those areas. And so I anticipate that we will be doing another walkthrough within the next week or two as the vendor finishes up out there at the fairgrounds, so that we'll have that drainage project wrapped up as well. I'm sure you've seen the email announcement. We do have a new HR coordinator with Miss Old's retirement. We're excited to welcome Sean Andrus. We will have him at an upcoming meeting. They're actually upstairs training feverishly, so I would encourage you to just drop by and introduce yourselves as everyone has time. One discussion that we have had and that our county treasurer triggered was that with us having some of the additional cash from the wind farm, if we wanted to look at our debt service, because we all understand the good stewardship, the goal of the commission is always to have at least 6 months reserves in 6 months operations in reserves to be able to have that after what they went through. And that was something the commission decided years ago. And then we also have the capital outlay holding. And so we are in the process of requesting a payoff, just a current balance for y'all to consider for the arena debt service. That's our lowest balance that is remaining. However, it still will be substantial. So that's something that we should have potentially before the next meeting. We'll bring to the commission, and then at that point y'all can have a discussion on how y'all would like to move forward, and we'll have a better idea of where we're at with cash balances and everything else as well, because we do have some big expenditures that we still have on the horizon, like with our road barn and things like that. Our road barn, we received $250,000, if you'll recall, in capital outlay, and the building itself is going to be close somewhere between 625 and 650 by the time it's done. And so those are all things that we will also have in consideration when we talk about where we're at in cash balances and what we might have available. But Lyle had a great suggestion, so we at least wanted to have the option for the commission to consider. So that'll be forthcoming. And I'm sure we'll have a Board of Finance meeting to really discuss all of those investment type things and everything. And that is all that is on my list. So I would stand for any questions if y'all had anything further.
Lopez. Wow.
Oh,
Well, you know what? I'll take that as a compliment.
there you go. Mr. Lopez.
Just real quick, Amber, I was going to say it for my line item, but is there any way you can contact Francisco and see if they can stripe West Fur? Please?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Rod, do you have anything? Miss Hamilton, I would like you, when we do the final walkthrough on the floodplain deal, drainage at the fairground. A couple of commissioners would go just to have a look at it with you.
In the past, it's been Mr. Lovato, Mr. Rivera, myself, and Gary Spinks. So there's a team of us that have gone through it, but I will keep that in mind. And if we haven't enough notice, we'll see if 2 of y'all can come, or 1, if you would like to see it.
I believe myself and maybe another commissioner would probably like to.
I'd like to go. You know where my office is at. I know.
So take a pick.
Well,
Or y'all can do it one at a time.
I believe Mr. Savage would be a great one to go because he's there during the fair. He's seen lots of stuff there and how things flow. And if Mr. Lopez would like to go, I guess.
Same time we can go look at the road barn. I'd like to go take a little tour of the road barn.
That was the other thing I was going to bring up. But do we know ending date maybe for all the construction on the road barn? Just how well the weather works for them doing their work and.
So the outside work is pretty much done. The doors will be in.
And we'll take a tour when the barn is complete.
I
That's
was
always
just
been
I was just
planned.
curious.
So
Y'all
the-
know where it's located, so you're always welcome to stop by there. I've been sending y'all picture updates
Yes.
and just trying to keep everything there. So again, if y'all want to stop by, you know the location on Boston, but we were planning on doing one when we were finished at construction at this point because we feel like that could be within the next 60 days.
It would, I think it will be. Visiting with Mr. Nixon, he said that the overhead doors were 3 weeks out when he ordered them 12 weeks ago. So 3 more weeks. I think it was 12 weeks out at the time. He said 3 more weeks. I think the structure on the inside, that's what they're going to start working on. I think it'll go up pretty quick. And then I figure by sometime in December is when we'll be moving in.
Sometime in December.
Mm-hmm. So what?
That
the
would be
goals?
nice. Mr. Lopez likes to cook for Christmas for all the employees.
Well, that
We
would
could
be
have us
perfect.
an opening and
An opening, have a
commissioners do like we did last time for a Christmas party for all our employees and our new.
brand new dance floor.
Let's do it.
I'm sorry to call you back up, but thank you. Does any of the commissioners have anything they need to touch on with commissioner items? I think we're done. Let's move on to new business. Request of approval of summary plat for the limits of the city. Mr. Montiel, lots 4.
So this is Stone and Hatch Inc. Inc. has applied for a summary replat of the northwest 20 feet and the southeast 30 feet of Lot 4, Block 11, from the original town plat subdivision in the city of Portales. The replat is in the city of Portales municipal limits and is in the original town plat subdivision. The northwest 20 feet and the southeast 30 feet of Lot 4, Block 11 are located 196 feet from the intersection of East First and North Main. So just over here is this building just right across from us over here. And so they wanted to subdivide that one lot into 4 lots, and they're going to be called Lot 4-1, 4-2, and 4-3. The minimum size of each of one lot is 0.027 acres in size. The maximum is 0.103 acres in size. It does fall into the Roosevelt County Subdivision Ordinance Article 6 Summary Replat review process. There were no adverse opinions from utilities or landowners from the letter sent out by the city of Portales. It has been approved by the city of Portales. The proposed replat has met all the rules and regulations of the Roosevelt County Subdivision Ordinance. So I ask for your approval of the replat. I stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I move we approve summary replat of lot 4. Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept the summary replat of Lot 4. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Everybody against? Nays?
You.
Approved. Moving on to item B. Request for the appointment of commissioners to serve on the subcommittee to negotiate service agreements with the city of Portales. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so I have been having ongoing meetings with the new city manager. Talks are going really well. I just need to get a new commissioner or commissioners, whatever y'all's choice is, to serve on that subcommittee to negotiate the service agreements. it was in the past, Commissioner Hunton, as you'll recall. And so we've already started some of the work previously, and then we are starting again with the new manager and everything. So like I say, discussions are going really well. We just need a designation of who is able to serve. So that's all. And again, 1 or 2, whatever the commission chooses is a pleasure.
Chairman, I would be willing to serve on that. I'd like to be involved in it.
Do we need to make a vote on that, or can he just volunteer, Randy?
Unless somebody else is interested in doing it. I
Is there
guess
anyone else?
volunteer.
Well, we can do up to 2, right, on subcommittee, up to 2 commissioners?
You can, if you would like. Uh-huh.
'Cause I think even Madam Chair Dixon might have a vested interest in that as well. Of course, I would love to. What does it entail? Because subcommittee to me is,
There's going to be a lot of meetings during the day. And so that's the concern. And I did speak with Commissioner Dixon. She said she was willing to, but if somebody else wanted to serve, then understandably and everything as well. So either way, and again, we had one before with Commissioner Hutton,
think
so
Robbie's
we can
going.
have one. If we need to, we can. It's whatever y'all's pleasure is. I
Yes.
just need someone designated.
Mr. Chairman, I move we appoint Mr. Savage as our representative.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All those in favor of Mr. Savage being our representative for that, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? See, now Mr. Savage will be on our subcommittee, sir. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Moving on to item C, appointment of commissioner to serve at the Eastern New Mexico Local Workforce Area designated as representative. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so this is another one. We need the official designation. This will need to be in a motion. And both myself and Commissioner Dixon have attended several different trainings. This is a very complicated process and another mandate courtesy of the state government. It's very confusing how it works, but I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. But basically, that right now, currently, there is an Eastern New Mexico Local Workforce Board, and each local board within that area, each county has to have a designated person, elected official commissioner serving on this. And we, again, attended a training. It's been probably about 3 weeks ago on this one is what they're looking at. But you can see the 12 counties that are included in this area are Chaves, Curry, DeBaca, Eddy, Guadalupe, Harding, Lee, Lincoln, Otero, Quay, Roosevelt, and Union. And so what we're needing is a designation. And again, I spoke with Commissioner Dixon.
Workforce do?
This is a local board just trying to help in some of, this is hard to explain. It's basically like a local governing body that helps with the high level, not necessarily policy, but more of the strategic vision and type things that they're seeing. So we were on the last training and they wanted to start taking board action. But both myself and Commissioner Dixon were concerned because we hadn't had an official appointment of someone to represent the commission at that point. And so Commissioner Dixon abstained from voting at this point until we could have
So
that
she's
official
been attending the
appointment.
meetings and those.
Yes, we've had to attend mandatory.
I'll make a
trainings.
motion and we appoint Ms. Dixon as the representative for the commission to the workforce.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Dixon would be our representative. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Being done. Ms. Dixon is now the representative. Moving on to resolutions. Consideration resolution 2021-34 requesting change to public employee retirement. Para. What? Oh, 43. To return to work provision. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, sir. So included in your packet with this, it started, I believe, with Curry County, several other counties. There's about 10 or 12 now that have already implemented this, and several more, another 10 or so at least, are considering it this week, including us. So what we've asked is for y'all to consider supporting this resolution and adopting it. We're just asking for some changes on return to work. As it stands right now in the state of New Mexico, we have a lot of great county employees and city employees and such that start at a young age and then retire. And then they leave our state to go work somewhere else because there is a penalty to return to work within para. And so instead of losing great employees to our neighbors in other states, we're just asking para to come up with a common sense approach as to a way that we can work around this. And right now in this resolution is just saying, hey, let's do a 5-year moratorium on this and let's see how well it works. And
Just
because
like it did in the
we think
school
it
system.
would. Yes.
Like they did in the school system. for the
So
substitutes.
ERB, separate process than para, but yes, the same concept. So we're just asking that y'all would consider supporting this so that we can get this to our legislators and such. I would stand for questions.
Yeah, could you explain just exactly how it was? If I'm retired, I go back to work. I'd like a little more in detail explanation. Give me an example.
Okay.
Do I pay into the ERB when I go back to work?
Currently now you would have to, there's like a moratorium. So if you retired from para and went to ERB or vice versa, there is. This is saying if you retire from para, we want you, like right now, it says that, so like in the third whereas, it talks about if you choose to return to work, currently the only option is you take a 12-month break in service and then you have to start and choose not to make member contributions. So you have to take 12 months off. Or you have to resume and you have to keep paying in even though you're retirement eligible. So this is saying, hey, we're all having trouble finding people that are hiring and or that people that want to work. We all have openings, we all have positions listed. It's really hard to find people to fill those positions right now. So we're saying a 5-year current moratorium on the current statute pertaining to retired members who choose to return to work with a para affiliate. So if we had Lieutenant Sanchez and he was eligible for retirement and he chose to retire, but yet he wanted to return to work and go to work for the city or Curry County or such, then he would no longer be penalized to go up there. And law enforcement's a little more unique, but a lot of times that's what we see retiring young or someone within the road department. So the road department's eligible for retirement, but then they decide that they want to go and work for another para affiliated agency and return to work. Then they wouldn't be penalized. They wouldn't be forced to make those member contributions. And we could see if it would work as well as we think it would. We think it could be definitely a great retention as well as a recruiting tool. This is something that the counties have been talking with para and trying to push for years. This isn't a new concept. We know that it's a problem, and we have had a significant number of employees that will retire and go to Arizona, Colorado, or Texas specifically, and we get that on our exit interviews because they can't return to work in this area in something that they're trained in.
Ms. One, my question is to be absolutely sure. Can that employee return to work, receive at the same time while he's working, get his retirement check plus his wages, do the double dipping deal?
That is my understanding. Yes,
You
sir.
can't.
That's what well, if the state was to adopt what we're asking. Because
Okay.
we're seeing, as we point out in the resolution, like especially within detention and sheriff's office, law enforcement, safety sensitive positions, those are the ones that we're really struggling to find the qualified applicants for. The sheriff's office really likes to have the certified candidates come through. And so those are the ones that we want to be able to do. Well, our recent retirement of Deputy Williamson was a great example. He had 2 retirements before coming here and working, and then choosing, like we were basically his third because he was military and then
So the reason he was able to come from Clovis, retire
Clovis,
Clovis and come over
yeah.
here is because they offered, and I don't know if they still do, they offered PERA and also ICMA, which is kind of like an IRA, I guess is what it is. So he was able to retire ICMA and then come work for the county under PERA.
right.
So, and they're the only agency that I know of in the state that does that. And I don't know if that's even offered anymore through Clovis, is the ICMA.
And I think that's how they signed up originally. Like he was one of those. I don't know if it's a grandfather type thing or not, but now with the rest of us all, like us, the city, all the other entities, Curry County, we're all para type stuff. So we
And
would,
as- like right now, sorry, but there's a lot of people that have retired and they go to Eastern because they can't come back to a county or a municipality under PERA. So there's several people working at
Mhm.
New Mexico University as police officers who are basically doing the double dipping thing. So they're retired PERA, but working for the school under the ERB.
ERB.
I have no more questions.
I think this is a great idea to help get our retired people another opportunity to choose for themselves where they'd like to live and work. So with that, I'll make a motion to support the resolution 2021-34 requesting change to public retirement 43. Did I do it again?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the resolution. Be a roll call vote. Mr. Greider.
Yes.
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 4 yes votes. Resolution passes. Consideration of resolution. Boy, I'm going to have a good time today. 2021-44. To participate in capital outlay program administered by New Mexico Department of Transportation.
Yes, sir. So,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners, this is a requirement to go along with the contract that's later on down here, item 8G. This resolution just lists that we have been awarded the 300,000, and it lists all the roads that we listed. Of course, we listed about twice as many roads as what we received funding for. So we'll just work through the list to get to that, but we have to have a formal resolution of adoption to go along with the contract for the submission to the Department of Transportation for these awards.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve resolution 2021-44.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the resolution. Be a roll call vote. Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
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 4 yes votes.
Thank you.
Resolution 44 passes. Moving on to line 8, item A. Ratification for the change order number 1 for Roosevelt County Road Barn for $4,350.30. Nixon Enterprises. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so we're just asking for ratification of a change order number 1 that has been approved because of the time sensitivity. What we found is that we did not have skylights included in our original bid, and due to, it was just one of those things, Rick and I, y'all, but we got them on the side. So we did have 10, as you saw in the quote. Those were at $300 a piece. And then there were 2 corner offices that Mr. Lovato had requested an additional window in each, just again, trying to utilize the natural light. So the total change order, as you saw, included in your packet, was $4,350.30.
They are putting skylights on the side of the wall.
in.
They're already in.
Okay.
That's why we're asking for ratification.
Don't want them on top.
Mr. Chair, don't
Yes.
vote it down now.
I'll move to approve agenda item 8A.
I'll-
Ratification change.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor of ratification change order, item 8A, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Passes. Moving on to item B. Request for approval of agreement banking service, JP Stone Community Bank. Ms. Sanchez.
Yes, good morning again. I just want to ask for your consideration to renew the banking services with JP Stone. We get great service with them and have no issues. They're very cooperative and very helpful. They give us very competitive terms for our banking. So, any questions?
Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of 8B and approve renew the agreement with the banking service to JP Stone Community Bank.
I'll say.
Been moved and seconded. We agree to the renewal with JP Stone. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Passes. Line C, request approval of contract renewal with C&K Trucking for hauling road materials. Mr. Lovato.
Just up here, asking for your consideration to renew this contract with C&K Cattle.
Who is that? I mean,
That is Robert Maldonado.
I'll make a motion to accept the contract renewal with C&K Trucking for hauling road materials.
Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Moving on, Mr. Lovato to D.
So again, looking for consideration for a renewal of K Barnett and Sons for their aggregate.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the contract renewal Mr. K. Barnett. Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the renewal with K Barnett and Sons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Item E, approval of vendor on CES contract 2020-28N C107-all. Or should I say LLL?
That's good, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners. I wanted to expand a little bit more on that one so that y'all are understanding what we're doing here. As y'all will recall, we've talked about the extensive flood damage that we sustained in the 2021 floods over at our healthcare center building. And so this is a two-step process. So we have a remediation aspect and then we have a repair. And so the repair is all contracted through the insurance. However, the remediation is something that we have to do on the contract side as we repair. We have had discussions and we anticipate that the insurance provider for the roof repair that was questionable at best during the process and afforded a substantial amount of leakage during that storm is going to be responsible for a portion of this, and then the remaining portion we've discussed with the tenants themselves because that is part of their maintenance requirements as well to ensure that the ongoing maintenance, and there were some additional things along those lines. So these are things that we're working on, but we need to have approval for the first step is to do the remediation in the part, and we're utilizing a CES contract for that. So
For the mediation.
yes, and so we have like a pre-construction repair type meeting scheduled this afternoon to go over things with this vendor as well as with the tenants and the county. And then we anticipate that we will start repairs at the clinic location November 8th. And we're working very closely with the vendor or with the tenant. They're the ones that are having to set the date when they're ready to start these. They will have to relocate basically all their services to Clovis because of the licensure requirements. So they're figuring out transportation and such. We're working with them to get the spaces cleared out that we're going to need to have our teams for the repair work, as well as we're working with them like to help with storage and different things to have all of that. We've had really good meetings with Mr. Montano and his staff, and everything is on schedule. We're just excited to get this work underway. It should be about a 90-day project is what we're anticipating. And so La Casa is aware of that and making accommodations with their patients as needed. So I'm asking for approval so that we can continue in this process with this contract, and I would stand for any questions.
So this is not the health department. This is La Casa Health
This
Clinic.
is the health center, the Roosevelt County Health Center, where La Casa is housed. Yes, sir.
Okay. Why don't you just call it La
Chair, I
Casa
move we
Health Clinic?
approve 8E.
Are you finished, Mr. Lopez? I have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor of approving the contract, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item F, agreement with Department of Finance Administration for the project award of $90,000 to renovate the Bonham home. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners. So included in your packet was the agreement for the 90,000. This is the next step so that we can move forward with those renovations. We the timing is working out well in terms of our, as we had talked in previous meetings, our current tenant that is there now is actually stepping out of that side of their business. Mental Health Resources will no longer be providing those services. So we're going to be able to go in there and renovate the Bonham House and then determine the next use for that. That will come back before the commission once we're done with the renovations. This will be used with the renovation, HVAC, new windows, new doors, repairing some stucco. You know that we already had the roof repaired following the hailstorm, so that's in good shape. It's just the rest of the facade and just infrastructure type upgrades for the facility. So this is a capital outlay award, so I would just stand for any questions and ask for approval.
Chair to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of, what's 8F? Repairs on the bottom home.
Second.
It's moved and seconded that we approve the capital outlay for $90,000.
Mr. Chairman, I don't need to abstain from this, right? Since it's the agency's out.
I have no problem with you. I have no problem with you voting on it.
Just disclose it.
Yeah, your disclosure is sufficient.
Anybody have any problem, Mr. Lopez, voting on this motion?
It doesn't matter if they do or not, he discloses.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the project award $90,000 for the Bonham home. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Moving on to item G. Request approval agreement with New Mexico Department of Transportation Fund for the capital outlay project of $300,000 for county roads. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so this was again the contract that we referenced earlier as we discussed with these projects in the resolution section. So I would stand for any questions.
I'll move to approve 8G.
I'll second Commissioner Lopez. All those in favor of the motion to accept the $300,000 for county roads, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Line item H, approval of grant agreement with New Mexico Department of Transportation and the Roosevelt County Sheriff's Department for DWI and the STEPS Fund. Lieutenant Sanchez.
Morning, Commissioners. This is the grant agreement that we bring you every year for traffic, for the traffic grant. It's for NDWI, which is basically targets DWIs after hours. So it's very specific on when we can work those patrols, but it's for overtime funding reimbursement to work extra patrols for DWI. That one's $4,986, and then the STEP is $15,322, and that the STEP grant we have a little more leeway on when we can work those patrols and where we can work those patrols.
What is the STEP grant? What are steps?
So both of these are data driven, but the STEP focuses on high crash areas, problematic areas where we're having issues, not
For
necessarily
patrol?
yes, for patrol.
Patrol?
And it's not specific to DWIs. So if we have, a bus route where
6 and 8. 7. Oh,
7, yeah. Yeah. And so what we do is we have to go through and
bad.
map it out and basically give the state all of our areas where we're having our crashes. And those are the areas that we have to work.
Anybody have any questions for?
Yeah, does this involve giving a minimum amount of tickets per day or per hour or anything like that in order to qualify for the grant?
So the TSD asks for at least, I think it's 8 tickets per shift. So it's a 4-hour block that we work. So they want 8 tickets throughout that block that we work. 8 citations.
So they're wanting 8 tickets for every 4 hours worked.
Yes, to show that the guys aren't just going 10-8 and then going and not doing any kind of traffic enforcement. It does.
Get every 30 minutes.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if, that's what they asked for. It's not, if you don't get those citations, we don't get penalized for it. Obviously, if you stop somebody for a tail light out and they end up being a DWI, and you affect a DWI arrest, you're not going to get any more citations generally, because that DWI arrest is going to take up the rest of that shift. Well, not the whole shift, depending on when you get that. So it's not necessarily saying you have to have these tickets. That's just what they're asking for, just to show that you're out there, not just being lazy.
How many deputies would be working at any time?
So it just kind of depends. So sometimes it's two of the deputies. Sometimes they're working by themselves, depending on manning. What the sergeant does is he puts an overtime list up, a sign up sheet, and the guys have the opportunity to sign up. I'm sorry? No, it's not mandatory.
But these can be warnings.
Yes, absolutely.
Qualify.
Yeah.
Yes.
Approve item 8H.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the grant agreement, item AH. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Passed. Media coverage.
Yes. So the media just said that please share that he is attending virtually and his questions have been answered during the meeting.
We
That's Mr.
appreciate,
Wilson. So
we
he's
appreciate
watching.
them watching.
We've been texting back and forth. Yes. So we will work on a few things like with the camera positioning and such to see if we can accommodate. Thank you.
With that, no other business. Meeting's adjourned.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, we had to sign all the resolutions. I'll give you a ride. I got a long trailer. You might have to walk from the street though. I got a 40.
Can you handle that?